Good morning. My name is Doug Mashek, and I'm a professor here at the University of Minnesota. I'm glad to be joining you all this afternoon via this pre-recorded presentation. So what I would like to do today is talk to you about the role of diet, and specifically what's in our diet and how much and when we eat that diet as an important factor influencing our health. So when I think of diseases, I often think them as branches of a different tree. And we know our society right now is plagued with a variety of diseases, including obesity, which I strategically have put more towards the base of this tree because we know obesity actually leads to many of the diseases. Currently, we have over 2 billion people in the world that are obese, and we know that obese people themselves, or we don't die necessarily due directly to obesity, but we die because of the increased risks for all these other mortalities. And one of the things we need to factor in when we think about these diseases or our health in general are all of the things that factor into whether or not we get these diseases. And those I would think of as the roots of this tree. So things such as genetics, factors such as exercise, which we know is a very good thing, environmental factors like smoking, pollution, sun exposure, or of course, one of my favorites is diet. One of the few things that we have a lot of control over that can have a huge effect on our incidence of disease. And one thing that's often forgotten when it comes to disease development is perhaps the most driving factor of any disease listed here, and actually probably most diseases that exist, and that's aging. If you think about any disease listed up on these branches of the tree, think about the likelihood of you getting that disease when you're 8 years old versus 80. There's no comparison, right? Every disease up here, aging is the number one risk factor. But yet when we think about disease and we treat them, we often target it. So we prune one branch of the tree and treat a disease rather than going back to the roots. And so what I want to talk about today is really an approach from a diet to really slow down or make the aging process go more smoothly as a means to prevent disease. And I'm not going to talk a lot of data, but I really want to talk more conceptually given the diverse background of this audience. So if we want to learn how to live a long, healthy life, we have to go to the people that have figured it out. And in that case, we go to Okinawa, Japan. This island boasts the highest concentration of centenarians in the world. There, the women live to be average of 90 years of age, and the men 84. And while there are probably a lot of factors that contribute to this long lifespan, one of them is their approach to eating. And so the average Okinawan has this saying, which I won't pronounce, my Japanese is not very good, but it has this saying where when you eat a meal, you only eat until you're about 80% full. So you never stuff yourself or you never gorge. You always are left feeling a little bit hungry. And this, of course, this population, many of you have probably heard of, has received a lot of attention in the media as really sort of a model for living a long, healthy life. So this concept of caloric restriction isn't just some sort of observation from some people around the world. It can also be tested in studies. And so in this particular study, you see two monkeys here, the one on the left and the one on the right. What's amazing about these two monkeys is that they are the exact same age. The one on the left was fed a diet as much as he wanted since he was a little monkey. The one on the right was fed the same diet, but was limited to about 30% less calories than the monkey on the left. So in other words, this monkey on the right was caloric restricted to some degree. And it doesn't take a scientist to figure out that there's a very big difference between these monkeys, just physical appearance. But also if we look inside and we scan their brains or we take a blood sample, this monkey on the right not only looks physically younger, but from a metabolic standpoint, is also very much younger. And so this concept of limiting calories or fasting is not really something new. We can look through the literature from hundreds to thousands of years ago. And I won't read all of these, but there's philosophers that are American, European, and Greek that have testified that fasting appears to have beneficial health benefits. But for a very long time, although we've known this is good, we haven't known why. And if you think about our current society, when are we ever fasting? Almost never, right? We are in an environment where food is plentiful, it's relatively cheap, and so we eat all the time, right? We eat because food's available, because it's a certain time to eat. Rarely do we eat because we're hungry. We're truly hungry. And as a testament to this, if you look at the eating window in humans, and what this represents, this graph here on the left, is each column is an individual person, and each dot is a time they ate, consumed some form of calorie over the course of a week. So it's 7 days combined. And what you can see is that there isn't just 3 periods of eating for most people. We eat quite continuously throughout the day and well into the evening. And the point from when we start for most people early in the morning to when we stop is a pretty big window. And so the average person here eats about 15 hours a day. In other words, the first food in to the last food of the day. And you have people ranging up to 18 hours a day. So with that kind of window, are we ever truly fasting? No, we're not. And just for fun, what do you think everybody's eating here late at night? Yes, you've guessed it. Dessert and alcohol. Don't feel guilty tonight when you have your drink and dessert, though. Sorry about that. So why does this caloric restriction or fasting appear to be beneficial? We know that a lot of us are starting out here, and then over time, due to diet, lack of exercise, whatever, we end up here in the middle, and this is what leads to disease. And what we want to do is try and get these people back to this more healthy state. So in order to more understand, and this is truly just calories in, calories out, in order to more closely understand what obesity is, we need to look a little deeper. And Homer Simpson here is representing our average obese individual. And if we slice him in half, this is what we see. We see a lot of white stuff here. This is adipose tissue or fat tissue. This is where most of the fat in your body is stored. And if we look at those cells, this is what they look like. You can see the outline of various cells, but inside is a big ball of fat we call a lipid droplet. And these cells are chock full of these, but that is their job. The problem is when many people become obese, this fat kind of overflows into other tissues, and it accumulates in them as well. And so this is a picture of the liver, and you can also see in the liver lots of white droplets here. And this happens in muscle and heart and your pancreas. And when this fat accumulates, it causes dysfunction in these tissues and leads to many of those diseases we talked about. Okay, so understanding fat metabolism, I think, is real key to understanding why obesity causes all these diseases. And so the way we think about it is that really, when you have too many calories coming in, you're either storing that extra fat or synthesizing the fat to accumulate fat in not only in adipose, but all these other tissues. And then, of course, to get rid of calories, there's fat breakdown. And what we know is that things like caloric restriction or fasting or exercise are all signals that tell your body, hey, let's break down fat and burn energy. And over the course of the last decade or so, we've learned that these pathways that are turned on when you always have calories coming in speed up the aging process and lead to disease development. Whereas when we break down fat, it puts a brake on the system. And that's the way I like to think about this. Too many calories in all the time is kind of like our foot on the gas all the times. But when we turn that off and we actually cause ourselves to limit calories or fast or exercise, that puts a brake on the aging process and on disease development. So now I want to switch gears a little bit and talk not about how much we eat or when we eat, but what we eat. And as you all know, there are a ton of fad diets out there. But the one gold standard diet that we know elicits very good health benefits, is sustainable, and actually delicious, is a Mediterranean diet. And all of you in Greece right now are experiencing that diet. And I won't go through the basis of this diet pyramid, but 2 things I want to point out. One, on the bottom, you see people being physically active. That's not necessarily part of the diet, but it's part of the lifestyle. And the other thing I want to point out over here is the fat in the Mediterranean diet. And that, of course, is olive oil. And we know olive oil is very different in its composition from other oils. Olive oil, shown over here, has a high amount of what we call MUFAs, monounsaturated fatty acids. And you can see these labels on the back of foods where they give you the ingredient information. And unlike many of the other oils, MUFAs are the most enriched in olive oil, and these are thought to have a lot of very beneficial health benefits. And so one of the things that's unique about fat is that our body really reflects what we eat. So if you eat carbs or proteins, our bodies don't necessarily reflect those, but our body's composition reflects the fat we eat. So if you stay in Greece and keep eating olive oil, over the next few months, you're going to have more of these monounsaturated fats in your fat tissue and in the fat cells in your body. And that, of course, will be a good thing. And what our research is leading to, and research by others, is showing that this concept of limiting calories, eating calories within a certain window so you can be fasting for some of the day, or exercise, are all beneficial. This is well known, okay? But we also know that, for example, olive oil as a component of the Mediterranean diet is also beneficial. But what about when you put the two together? And this is where we think there's synergy. Our work has been showing, we're identifying pathways in cells and tissues and doing studies in animals and humans, showing that when you enrich the fat in your body with such a thing as olive oil, and then you tell your body to break it down, it really slows down this aging process and disease development. And so you're going to be hearing much more about this over the next few years, but I hope this gives you something to think about, that you can maybe make some changes in your diet or think about your health in a little bit different way. And with that, I would gladly love to receive feedback from anyone. I've listed my email address here and my lab website. And I just want to wish you all the best at the rest of your meeting and hope you enjoy your time in the wonderful Greek countryside. Thank you.